everyone, it's Bev here and welcome to my 2022 AFL Season Predictions. The footy season is only 1 week away. Whoa! UBUT! And it's that time of year where I lay my thoughts out on the floor and share with you my ladder predictions, my premiers, my wooden spooners, my Coleman medalist, Brownlow medalist, and rising star. So let's not muck around. Let's get straight in to my 2022 AFL season prediction. Okay, on now to my ladder predictions, and we'll start with 18th. My wooden spooners, unfortunately, go to the Gold Coast Suns. I look at their list, I just don't think they've got enough depth across the board. I do concede they've got some talent in that team, along with Jared Witts, who is back after being injured last season. They've got the gun Took Miller, but Ben King's injured. They let go Hugh Greenwood, and I look at their first 6 games of the season. West Coast away, Melbourne at home, GWS away, Carlton at home, St Kilda away, Brisbane at home. I don't think they'll win any of those first 6 games. They could be 0-6 to start the season. And then on top of that, the pressure of Stuart Dew in the last year of his contract. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be another sour year for the Suns. Coming in at number 17th is last year's Wooden Spooners, North Melbourne. I don't think they'll be making a drastic improvement this season. They are still early in their rebuild. They've got some exciting young talent in their team, the likes of Davies Uniacke, Larky Thomas, Zerha, Horne-Francis, just to name a few. They're on the right path, but I just think they're still many moons away. At 16th, I've got Collingwood. New coach Craig McRae presents a fresh start for the club, but I think he has a bit of work to do this season. Their forward line, to me, is a bit of a worry, that is for sure. Who's going to kick most of their goals? Where's their goals going to come from? It's going to be fascinating to see. Obviously, they moved the footy pretty slow last year, but you do expect that to change under a new coach. I do question their young depth coming through, although Nick Dacos, he is going to be a superstar this year. Cannot wait to see him in action. On the positives for Collingwood, their full-strength back 6 is actually pretty strong with the likes of Roughhead, Maynard, Moore, etc. I do think their midfield is decent, but I can't see them being anywhere outside the bottom 4 this season. At 15th is Hawthorn, another team that has recruited a new coach, Sam Mitchell, at the expense of Alistair Clarkson, which is a pretty big call, but you'd have to say they're probably taking a long-term approach now. They're regenerating and rebuilding that list after the recent dynasty. At 14th, I've got the Adelaide Crows. Now, I've seen people tip them for the wooden spoon and deep in the bottom 4, but I look at their first season under Nix. They won 3 games. They then improved last season, winning 7 games, and I think they can only improve from here. They've got some promising young players. They've recruited Jordan Dawson. Yes, they're still very inexperienced. Yes, their defence was one of the worst in the competition last year, and their forward line's got a bit of a question mark as well. Taylor Walker kicked 48 goals last year, the most for the Crows. He misses the first 3 games. Can a player like Himmelberg and Thilthorpe step up? Time will tell. But I think they're a team that can keep on improving this year, and they might surprise some people. At 13th, I've got the West Coast Eagles. I think they're going to be the biggest slider of 2022. We saw glimpses of them falling away last season, but they were still able to keep themselves in contention. They've got a few injuries to start the season, which is a bit of a concern. And with injuries comes the question of, do they have enough depth to cover those injuries? The answer for me is a no. Their slow game style last season didn't serve them well. The positive for them is I think they've still got enough quality, but I think this season they might realise that it's time to refreshen things. At 12th, I've got St Kilda. Now, I thought they were going to make top 8 last season, so for me, they were probably the most disappointing team last season. They conceded big scores to the opposition at times last season, which is a huge concern, although their second half of the season was a lot better than their first half of the season, no doubt about it. But I just look at their list and I just question whether it's good enough. Jack Steele's a gun, but he needs players to step up around him. Max King is the shining light in that forward line, but again, he needs players to step up around him, and we know the quality of Rowan Marshall. Wouldn't be surprised if they did make the top 8 this season. I think they are a contender, but I'm leaving them out because I just question whether their list is good enough. Sorry, Scoops. At 11th, I've got Fremantle. I think they're a top 8 contender this season. Their defence is well and truly good enough. They've got a good mix of young and experienced players. They were smashed with injuries last year, so with a full-strength team on the park this season, they've got the scope to improve. But the one issue I've got with Fremantle, and it's keeping me from putting them in my top 8, is their forward line. Last year, it was a huge issue. Taberner scored 37 goals. The next best was Schutz with 22 goals. Are players going to step up around Taberner, or is it just going to be left all up to Taberner? That's the query I've got on Freo this season. In 10th, I've got Carlton. I think they are a top 8 contender as well this season. They've got a new coach, Michael Voss. They showed a lot of positive signs in their pre-season match against Melbourne. Chera and Hewitt are big inclusions, and the talent is there. It's no question about it. There's still some queries around the defence, which was a huge issue for them last season. I couldn't find a spot inside the top 8 for them. I still think they might need time. This year might be the season where they are contending, they miss out by percentage or a game, and then next season they really take off. We'll see what happens. In 9th, I've got the Greater Western Sydney Giants. Wow, last season they made the finals when not a lot of people expected them to do so, and they did it with injuries, which is what made it even more remarkable. And they're probably open to more improvement this year with a healthy list and a full-strength team on the park. They've got a strong midfield, but what I query is Toby Green is out for the first 6 weeks of the season, and I feel like GWS are too reliant on him. I've got them missing the finals, but it's only by a small percentage. At 8th, I've got Essendon. They were the most exciting team to watch last season, and with another pre-season under their belt, I think they'll be around the mark again. They're strong defensively. Their midfield is solid. My query is whether they've got enough height in the forward line, especially now with Cale Hooker retired. And also as well, I think if they're going to win a final this season, they need to toughen up a little bit. When the going got tough in the elimination final against the Western Bulldogs, they failed to stand up. So that needs to change, but I think they're going to be around the mark again this season. If they're not making the 8, they're not missing out by much. At 7th is Geelong. Now, I've got them sliding just a tad because I think they're getting on a little bit, but they're super consistent. They make the finals year after year under Chris Scott. So until they don't make finals, I can't leave them out of the top 8. They're solid in most areas, and they are experienced. The ruck is always a concern for Geelong, and there's also that concern for me as well. Do they have enough backup? I think we saw last season in the finals, they really missed Tom Stewart, and they never really had anyone to replace him. So do they have enough depth if injuries occur? I do question that, but I expect them to be up there making the finals. They could even make me look like a fool and make the top 4 again. In 6, I've got Richmond. I'm tipping them to jump back into the top 8 after they missed it last year. And it was pretty unexpected too. I don't think anyone saw it coming. But I look at their list on paper. They've still got a finals competitive list in my opinion. And the club must think the same if they're adding a player like Robbie Tarrant into the defence. So they might not be as good as they were a couple of seasons ago, but I'm tipping them to be there in the 8 around the mark. At 5, I've got the Sydney Swans. Now, they came from nowhere last year to be a young, exciting team. And what I like about them is you look at their list, they've got a deep list with plenty of talent, and they've also got a bit of experience on that list as well. I love the way they move the footy, and last season they proved that they could match it with some of the teams around them as well. I guess the queries with them is I still feel like they're too reliant on Buddy, who's near the end of his career, no doubt about it. So can a player like Logan McDonald step up? Time will tell. And there's always that query being a young, exciting team one year to then maybe dropping the next. There's always that possibility, but I think they're going to be up there again contending this season. At 4th, I've got my beloved Western Bulldogs. That's my expectation this year for the red, white and blue. They were in the top 4 for a majority of last season. They then missed out at the last hurdle and then showed terrific fight during the final series, winning games against the odds to get to the grand final. And then we know what happened there. They lost to Melbourne by a big margin in the end. But I think they can be back up there competing this season. Their midfield is one of the best, if not the best, in the competition. The way they move the footy is so quick and superb. I was listening to Luke Beveridge the other day on radio. He says there's still a few things to sort out, and one of those things is the forward line. Who's going to provide support to Aaron Norton with Josh Bruce being unavailable for the first half of the season at least? Time will tell who that will be, but I'm expecting the Doggies to be up there again this season. Fingers crossed. In third, I've got Melbourne, the reigning premiers, the team to beat this season, no doubt about it. How dominant were they in the final series? They dominated every one of their finals matches. And you look at their full-strength team, they're strong in all areas. They've got strength across the board, and they'll no doubt have motivation to win the premiership again this season at their home ground at the MCG, something they couldn't do last season. But it's hard to go back-to-back. It's really, really hard to win a second flag in 2 consecutive seasons. And I'm not in the category just yet of this team is going to create a dynasty. They definitely have the credentials to do it, but it's so hard to do it. So I'm doing something a bit different, putting Melbourne a bit lower than some people are, but they're still going to be there contending, and they could just go back-to-back. In second, I have got Port Adelaide. Now, a lot of people writing Port Adelaide off this season because they've wasted their chances in recent times. They've lost back-to-back prelims of the Adelaide Oval, but I still think they've got the list to be contenders. They've got a great mix of young guns and experience, but the experience is not going to be there forever. The likes of Boak and Jonas and Dixon, etc., they're not going to be there forever, which is why now is the time they must win a premiership. It has to be now. If it's not now, when is it? I don't mind the recruitment of Jeremy Finlayson. I think that adds an extra dimension to their forward line. They can't afford injuries, though, this season. If they start getting injuries to key players, well, it's going to hurt them. I'm putting them in second just on the expectation that now is the time they must win a flag. And my minor premiers for the 2022 AFL season on top of the ladder is the Brisbane Lions. There's just something about the Brisbane Lions this season. They've been thereabouts contending the last couple of years. They've had injuries sort of not go their way. But you look at their team on paper, they're just strong in all areas, especially when fit. They use the home ground advantage so very well. They've got a pretty favourable draw when you look at their fixture. The inaccuracy in the front of goals has been a problem in recent times, so they must fix that up this season. But there's just something about the Lions. I think they're going to be right up there this season. One of the top teams. I've got them on top. So that is my 2022 AFL ladder predictions. Now on to the rest of my season predictions, starting with the premiers. Of course, my heart says the Western Bulldogs, of course, but I'm tipping the Brisbane Lions to win the premiership this season. There's just something about the Brisbane Lions. They look so strong on paper, and provided that injuries don't hurt them again this season, I think they can go very far. The Brownlow medalist, I'm tipping my beloved Marcus Bontempelli. He wasn't far away from winning it last season. It was just the last couple of games where the Dogs lost that really costed him. But I think he'll be right up there again this season, challenging for the Brownlow, and I think he'll win it. Now, the Coleman medalist, I'm going someone a bit left field. Ben Brown from Melbourne played 13 games last season for 25 goals. I think this season, with a pre-season under his belt, free from injury, playing the full season, I think he can be up there challenging and winning the Coleman medal. So I've got him to win the Coleman medal. And the rising star, well, I'm going Nick Dacos. If you've seen him play against the GWS in the practice match the other day, you'll understand why I'm picking him. He just looks like an absolute gun. I think the main danger might be Josh Ward from Hawthorn. He looks like a superb player as well. But Nick Dacos, he's my tip to take out the rising star this season. And there you go. That is my predictions for the 2022 AFL season. And the good thing about this is that everyone has an opinion. So please comment down below your thoughts, opinions, and your predictions for the season ahead. Would love to read them, so comment them down below. Of course, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I've got plenty of footy content to come, and if you don't want to miss it, then you must press that subscribe button. Thanks for watching this video, and until next time, bye for now.